Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 1 o'clock show. And I have the amazing Becky Paroz. Is that how I say your last name?
Close enough. Kind of Aussie-fy it. Oz, yep.
Oh, well, I am Aussie, mate. Like, I'm so Aussie that, they're probably going to do land rights on my bum. I get more Aussie than that. Thank you for joining me. It's so great. Yeah. Now I'm just going to go and make this live into the group because that's how we do things. We're still working out how this stuff works. It's all good.
We're all pivoting, aren't we?
Yeah. The beautiful thing about what we're doing with Obsessed with is that it's like really got not much to do with business at all, which is really kind of nice. So
yeah. I get 1,000 watch live, join live parties a day, and I'm like, I actually am busier than ever. So while it's great, there's a lot of support out there. Some days you're just like, can we just have a chat about like normal stuff? Stuff we used to talk about 3 months ago before all this happened. When did those conversations go?
Well, that's what we're going to do today, I feel. Let's have a chat about, life, the universe, and everything. We'll find a few things out about you, no doubt. But I guess for those who are joining us, tell us a little bit about you. And, I'm fascinated by your Facebook page because it says head witch and you've come from a construction background. And I'm like going, how does that work?
Excellent. My work here is done. That's kind of part of the reason I do it, because I don't like to fit in a box and I'm very anti-labels. So, yeah, I don't have a short version, the 30-second pitch. I can't fit everything into 30 seconds, but here goes. Engineer, project manager, 30 years in construction, been on stage, did a comedy course with Fiona McGarry. I was in her first course ever. Most terrifying thing I ever did in my life, but I've been talking on stage for 20 years, presenting. I've written a book. I've been involved in a best-selling book just recently. I coach people to write books. I coach and mentor young women in the construction industry and male-dominated industries. I write for magazines, and in my free time, I raise 2 monsters, which are disguised as Rhodesian Ridgebacks.
Oh, my God. So do you ever sleep?
No, Sleep and I aren't friends. Occasionally we meet, and we'll have a nice couple of hours of intimacy, and then it's done. And maybe we'll catch up again next month. Yeah, I don't have children, so that's why I can fit a lot of this stuff in. Although the 2 Rhodesian Ridgeback puppies are kind of equivalent, except I can chuck them outside and don't get in trouble legally, apparently. So there's that.
And nobody's going to call child services.
That's right. If I neglect to feed them, I'm not going to get done for anything.
That's why I can say to my dog when he barks, "Shut up, you stupid thing." Whereas if I did that with my children,
that's right. To give them long-term
counselling. So that is what we call in the media world a shit ton of things that you have done and accomplished. Like that's incredible.
Things I've looked out at that too,
Do you have a favourite thing?
No. And that was when I accepted for this interview and kind of going, well, you can ask me what I'm obsessed with, and I can't narrow it down to any one thing because I am interested in everything, learning stuff. I know how to put a door handle on. I know the difference between this type of door and this type of door. And it's not something I ever wanted to know, but I'm fascinated by learning that stuff. So my obsession is living a full life. And that means just diving into everything with an obsession to do it to the best of my ability and learn it to the best of my knowledge. And then go, okay, right, done, next. Yeah, I'm no good at hobbies because I'm kind of like, okay, I've done that really well. Let's go find something else to do.
Do something. Wow, your pool room must be like full chockers.
Yeah. Well, Jack Daniels. So there's another thing I'm obsessed by. Jack Daniels nectar. So the room's got about 5,000 books in it. A lot of Jack Daniels memorabilia, photos from where I've been all over the world, and a few trophies too. Won a few awards in my time. So yeah, I like to keep busy.
Yeah, you sure do. Well, I was there when you won an award at the International Women's Day Leadership Awards at the Gold Coast. And what I really liked about you, besides you, is that you had on this gorgeous frock and a pair of boots. And I turned to the lady sitting next to me and I went, She shops at the same place that I do.
It's kind of, I made the boots a part of my brand because I've worn them for 30 years. Plus, one of the things I left out is I also have rheumatoid arthritis, and I have had since I was a teenager, which is a very debilitating, disabling disease. And so they give me, I've never worn heels in my life. I can't wear heels. So my boots are my thing. They give me a great solid foundation, and they're kind of ready to kick butt. I'll use that word because there's probably polite ladies on here. So they're kind of, they're really, they're really a part of me and who I am. I feel like me when I'm wearing them, and I don't feel like me when I'm wearing a frock. So it's kind of that juxtaposition again, and also, not putting me in a category because it's confusing to people. I don't fit. Well, why aren't you wearing heels with that? And sometimes I don't feel like explaining that my ankle bones are fused and I can't bend them in order to get even to, small heels. So I just kind of made it a part of my brand that you get your boots on. That's what I do. It's what everyone should do.
That's really good. Accommodate your style and your physical capabilities, and basically given, people, that middle finger up and gone, you know what, there are no rules. Like who said that you can't wear boots with a dress?
Well, someone must have said it somewhere because a lot of women believe it. But, that's the kind of thing I'm obsessed with, is breaking down those structures of what we expect is normal and we should do, and what society tells us is what looks pretty. I got a lot of compliments with that dress. Felt like a sausage skin. It was so tight and hot that night, but I looked great. So but I could also come down the stairs and I could stand easily without giving myself extra excruciating pain. And that's more important to me than whether I fit a model that society tells me I should look like.
Yeah, cool. And like you really started bucking the system 30 plus years ago when you went into construction. Back when I can remember in high school, so in the early 80s. There was this one girl in my class who wanted to do manual arts, and her parents had to threaten to sue the school because girls don't do manual arts. So tell me a little bit about how you got into construction. I imagine that you faced a lot of brick walls, no pun intended.
Yes. They talk about the glass ceiling. It's more like concrete. Similar story. I was very maths oriented. My English teacher destroyed my love of writing. Fortunately, he didn't destroy my love of reading. So it's truly ironic. I'm now back around doing writing, and that's one of my core skills. But I did tech drawing because I wasn't really interested in biology. I wasn't going to become a scientist. So again, one of the parts of my story that we haven't talked about is that I grew up in a very abusive childhood. Lots of domestic violence, lots of alcoholism, lots and lots and lots of problems. So my kind of career goals were high paid, get the hell out of Dodge, and never kind of look back. So the guidance counsellor either was ahead of his time or he did actually see something in me, and maybe it was a combo of both, kind of steered me towards architecture. Now, architecture is a 6-year uni course, and I couldn't afford 1 year of uni course. So he then threw out engineering, and like most people, said, "What's engineering? Oh, you build stuff." Okay. What's the pay? Oh, it's one of the highest paid jobs. I'm in. And that's kind of what it was like back then, not knowing, and no one told me, least of all this guy, that it wasn't a done thing for girls. So I turned up to the uni and there was 600 plus guys and 10 girls. And I went, oh, this is different. And believe it or not, people don't believe me to this day, but back then I was incredibly shy because of my childhood and because of lots of social issues, and, didn't say boo to people, let alone a whole bunch of blokes. So it was a really confronting environment. I also needed to pay for it myself. So I went and I didn't do the traditional waitressing and all that sort of stuff. I went and got a job in the industry because I was like, as soon as I could get out of there, I wanted to. So in my mind, if I was working in the industry, studying in the industry, I'd get the paycheck and get further quicker. Forgot about the girl bitch though. So there's that. So yeah, I was in a small country town working for local industries, doing the engineering course. 4 girls dropped out in the first year. And it was confronting. So I was working as well, and that's when it really hit home that girls don't do this stuff, because I was told that every day. you don't belong here. This is our world. If you want to be in our world, deal with what we have. And, that's back when the magazines were allowed on the toilets and the posters and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, it was really valuable because of all the issues I had as a kid. I really had to just get over it. If I wanted to stay there, and it's nothing like being told you don't belong for a girl like me to go, hold my beer. So it really made me get over and not sweat the small stuff. Lots of bad words and being called names and all that sort of stuff. I now run a company, one of many, called Queen Bee. And I tell people the B doesn't stand for Becky. It stands for that name that I've been called every day of my career, and use the capital. Thanks very much. Because I started to own those words. And I'm like, well, if I'm not doing that and you're not feeling that about how I'm doing that, then I'm not doing my job properly. Because I'm your manager and I'm QA, which is checking people are doing their job properly, and wow, that's fun. So for about 15 years, I worked in QA, and my job was essentially to make sure that people were doing the job they're supposed to and installing things the way they're supposed to. And of course, as a girl doing that, if I had $1 for every time I heard, I've been doing this for 30 years, girlie, what would you know? I wouldn't have to work again. But the challenge for me was to not take that personally and not get all up in arms about it and sort of drag out the feminist flag or anything, but kind of change their mind. And that's where humour and coaching and a lot of that stuff gradually gave me the skills to turn around. And, I now use things like Muhammad Ali has this great saying, and, you steer the blokes up a little bit, like, have you heard of him? Like, oh, yeah, great boxer. Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah. Yeah, well, that he said, show me a bloke who's done the same thing for 30 years and I'll show you a bloke who hasn't learnt anything his entire life.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, and then just silence for them to think about it and be like, oh. And so that's a much neater way of dealing with attitudes and getting bent out of shape or angry or running off to HR or all of the things that tend to happen or are expected to happen because we're women. Being called a bitch, whatever. It's a word, just like the other words that women get called. So it gave me that ability to kind of not sweat the small stuff really early, which, given I've had the most incredible life, has been really, really good for me, and a great skill in terms of resilience and confidence and developing that sort of leadership to then train and support and mentor other young ladies. And that, so what if they call you a name? It doesn't actually have to affect you. It's just a word.
Do you think on. I mean, we live in the age of outrage now. Like, everybody's outraged or offended or triggered and I mean, no disrespect, because, I've had my share of trials and tribulations through my life, but I'm a lot like you. It's like, you go on, call me a name. I could give two shits, like, seriously. Yeah. But that's taken time to get there. Do you think that maybe we are overly sensitive now because we've all tapped into personal development? We're allowed our opinions and we're allowed to express our opinions, and, there's a platform for everyone, for everything?
I think there's two sides to it. I think one side is that personal element. I think some of that comes from everything being accessible and instant. We can give instant feedback to something that we might be slightly touched by negatively, whether you call that offence or outrage or whatever label you put on it. So whereas before all of that, it took a lot of more time. You'd hear through the filter of the grapevine that so-and-so said something. And you could have time to be hurt and process it and wonder why and kind of look at where they're coming from and have a much more community interaction about something that may have upset you, whereas now it's instant. So you don't have time, and people aren't encouraged to take time to think and process and kind of take a step back and put themselves in the other person's shoes and have all that inner monologue before we give a return. So I think that's one part of the problem, where we're just so instant gratification, and that's spilled over into instant feedback. The second part, I think, is it's a very media-driven social construct, and we've bought into it because if it bleeds, it leads. So if everyone's getting along and communicating and actually facilitating discussion and being able to go, well, I see that you said that, and I'd like to offer a different opinion, and by the way, let you know that perhaps that wasn't quite so kind, that doesn't facilitate good TV, doesn't facilitate the marketing that goes with the media as it stands today. The media thrives, I believe, on divisiveness and it is much more productive for media, marketing, and I'm not talking people, I'm talking the system that is constructed around it. It's much better to have much more divisiveness and male versus female and queer versus straight and Christian versus anything else, or Muslim versus anything else, or atheist versus anything else, or conservative versus Republic, or liberal versus whatever, Labor as we have in Australia. I think that is much more conducive to the media for sales and for pitching and for engagement. And because that's what we are fed a diet of, we have become to believe that that's reality and that's how we all should be. Instead of taking a step back, owning ourselves and our responses and our thought processes, we're buying into this big story that we must be here or there. There's no middle ground anymore, and people who take the middle ground are often very much attacked for not having a side. But I can be outraged and sympathetic. I can be giving as well as isolating. I can be concerned as well as realizing that it actually doesn't impact me. I don't understand this massive need to emote over everything. And we see a lot of that in the memes that come out, if you don't like this photo of this child or this dog or this person or this something tragic, then you're a terrible person. And we kind of buy into that and immediately give it a click. And we all know those things are designed exactly for that, but yet we keep doing it instead of being able to move on and go, actually, I'm not a bad person because I don't know if it's real. I don't know that person. And I don't actually have a social responsibility to feel about them. What I can do is I can hope that they have a community and support in the environment that they're in. Because the person who shared that photo is actually the problem. Because do they get permission to share that photo? Do they get permission to out this child or this animal or this person for whatever? And that's a whole bigger conversation. But I think it's much easier for us to react instantly instead of do a slightly more grown-up process of take it on board, think about it, and come back with a rational, calm, and less emotive response. That's a really good answer to what you thought was probably a short question.
I think that was a fantastic answer. I'm going to give you 10 out of 10 for that, and I'm going to give you a pay rise. So, no worries. Just talk to my.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I'm very generous that way. No, there's some really good observations there because I was watching one of my favourite shows is Grey's Anatomy, and there was an episode a couple of weeks ago when one of the main characters had a very public breakdown, and in a space of an hour, there were memes about this person who was, it's a show, but he was very well respected. And I see that reflected in everyday life. It's where we seem to no longer be allowed to make mistakes or be imperfect without being judged. And it's really hard, like for someone like you who's come through, got the calluses on your hand, built up your personality and your persona, because you did say you're very shy. There are so many people out there who are not like you, who haven't done that, who are being left behind because they don't have a voice, because someone cut them down.
Yep. And that's why I probably do what I do, because of all those people who have perhaps a similar story or similar elements of my story, but don't have the boots on to get out there and just kick those doors down and say what needs to be said and have the tough exoskeleton to deal with feedback. But 30 years in construction dealing with feedback from men has pretty much given me that. So I have those skills, and that's why I use the voice that I have, I suppose, and think and talk about these uncomfortable things and call out some of the poor behaviours that I believe are being encouraged in our society as a general statement. Because while we're distracted by the little things, the big things happen and we miss them. And I'm not talking conspiracy theories or anything like that. It's just we're so focused on some of the small stuff, we often miss some of the big stuff that happens, and life kind of passes us by. Instead of being in those moments, we're caught up in past, or we're caught up in outrage, or we're caught up in whatever it is we're caught up in, and we're not actually doing our life, which is what we live and what we're here. Joy, and we allow all these things to take away and siphon our joy and suck our enjoyment and take away our laughter. And I kind of think if we just kind of, flick a lot of that stuff off and get back to who am I, what do I want, what makes me happy, and get some support to get past that, but what will other people think?
You said before,
sorry, our whole society is designed around what do other people think. And I kind of have not had to worry about that for a long time because I've been told what people think and then decided it didn't really matter anyway.
Went on and did it. It's
Yeah.
good. Someone once said to me a long time ago, Annette, whether people love you or hate you has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, such a truth.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Such a truth, because while we can try and live and be the best people that we are, I know I fuck up regularly, and I'm sure that there's people who despise me for things that I may have said or done that I didn't intend, as have you. But if you let that freeze you, you'll never move forward, will you?
Well, no, you won't. And those people then control your life. And that's, you know, I didn't have that power when I was a kid. I'm not giving that power to anyone as an adult ever again. And I think the other thing too is for those who are sort of more rational and can sort of, you know, I use statistics. I work in quality. So we always do a 10% sample size of checking corrections and all that sort of thing. So I kind of go, well, if you look at the sample size of the population, realistically, 10% of the people aren't going to be my kind of people. And I'm not going to be their kind of people. So that means 10% of the population isn't going to gel with me, like me, or is going to have a negative reaction to me. Well, that's okay. There's 90% left, and I'm not going to get to know everyone. So it's kind of, I just see it as a filter. Okay, you don't like me, great. You're not my people. I'm not your people. Move on. There's nothing to be caught up here, and I don't understand why we take that. I mean, I do understand it at a personal level, but the whole concept of taking that on and making it personal and feeling that is a tragedy or something that needs to be changed, ain't nobody got time for that. And I suppose that's the other thing with my disease is I was told I wasn't going to live past 40, so I've really had no time for that. I'm past 40 now. You can't tell because I've recently got my hair done. Right. But, you know, I had, I suppose, a lot of motivation to let go of that little stuff. So it was always like, okay, if I don't have much time left in my life, how much time am I going to give this person and this feeling and this negativity? Well, 0. Right, we're done. Moving on. Lot harder than what it is to say, but with practice, it's now really easy. It's like, you're not my people. Okay, bye. You know, there's plenty of other people out there who are. So that's great. I've just got some more filters. I'm closer to those people who are my people, which is fantastic. So it's all about flipping that negative into positive, and that takes a lot of practice. The coaching and mentoring and courses I've done in that regard certainly helped a lot. It's a process, but it can be done. And I think the more particularly we women do that and not judge ourselves by the view of others and whether we're wearing makeup or our hair's perfect or our eyebrows are, you know, on fleek. I think that's what the kids are saying these days. Yeah. Got to check mine.
On fleek.
On fleek, I believe it is the slang. Don't ask me what it means. I've just heard it. So this will teach me for throwing out slang, won't it? You know, whether I heel to the right brand and all those things. And I'm not dissing women who love fashion. I would love to love fashion because some women can just put together an outfit like incredible. Like the night we were there at the awards. Like there were some amazingly dressed women there. I was just like, oh, if only. But that's not my thing. That's not my bag. So I'm not going to try and embrace that when it doesn't fulfill me. And also I can't wear heels. So, you know, I kind of go with things that go with my boots, which is how I roll. So being really comfortable with that instead of worrying about all these other things is, I suppose you could say another one of my obsessions is like we women are so hard on ourselves and then by default on everyone else as well. And if we can just stop, you know, like we get really bad out of shape and it ruins our day if we spill coffee in our blouse. And I kind of go with the whole, I've seen so many men spill coffee on themselves in my life because I've worked with thousands of them. Not one of them has ever thought, you know, that's the end of their career and how they're going to be judged and all that sort of stuff. They just kind of, oh, whatever, I'll go coffee and move on. And I think there's some great knowledge I've absorbed from men in that space and being able to just like, you know, brush that off my shoulder instead of carry it around with me and make it a much bigger deal than needed to be. But we women are encouraged to do that because society says that's all we're good for, you know, in looking pretty.
How many bum cracks?
Say again.
Men don't seem to worry about showing their bum crack.
Oh, that's right. But for a woman to show a bum crack, oh my gosh.
Or a little bit of side boob or too much cleavage, it's like, Oh, the sky is falling. Now, in your introduction of your lovely self, you rattled off a whole heap of things. And one thing, well, besides everything, which is very all interesting about you, you said that you did a comedy course with Fiona McGarry. We have that in common. I've also done one. And you said it was one of the scariest things that you've done. Now, I've tried to explain this to people and they're going, oh, but you're so confident. You get up on stage and you're like going, well, you just do it. And it's like, yeah, but I swear to you, I have adult nappies on from the moment I wake up to like once I get on stage because I'm terrified. So did you have that experience as well?
Yes. So my first speaking experience, my boss, I was working for a big project. There were like 650 odd combination, mostly men, but I got quite a few women. And he's like, hey, you're popular. We need to do toolbox talks. You're going to do the first one. You're going to do that this afternoon. I wasn't a public speaker then. So I just kind of literally went through up. Fortunately had a great team member who made this really crazy PowerPoint. So part of that story is my boss had dubbed me the quality queen and bought me a little tiara, which I should have been wearing. Damn it, it's lost opportunity. So she kind of made it tiara time and we kind of subverted the toolbox theme, which is great. So I went and did the talk and I got some spontaneous applause and my boss was so jealous. So that's kind of, spontaneous applause from 300 to 600 blokes is pretty much enough to set a girl up with an addiction. So I'd kind of gotten really confident with the talking after that. It's like, yes, I can rock a stage. So along comes this comedy course, first of its kind, local, Fiona, you can do this. I'm like, yes, that'll be great for public speaking. People tell me I'm funny. I'll learn how to do it better. Brilliant. I have this habit of doing these things where I like dive in and then go, oh, what have I done? Oh, no, because I told everyone, right? Told everyone I'm doing it and I'm going to do 5 minutes on stage. So when she's like, yeah, you need to invite everyone, I was like, what now? Shit. Because I told everyone. So there was no way out of this. So great, fantastic. Oh, up on stage and just going, oh, my God, what have I done? Because here's the thing. I've done a lot of public speaking. You've done a lot. People have done public speaking. We're kind of good with it. But public speaking is about giving a message, sharing information, offering teaching, learning, inspiring. There's something you do with that. The idea of comedy is none of that. It's just making people laugh. And when you're up on a stage looking at 200 people, 40 of whom you know personally, wishing they weren't there at all because they're right and they're going, and you're like, oh, no. And you realize all you have to do is make them laugh. That is massive pressure all of a sudden. It's massively confronting for someone who's like, oh, but I'm not teaching them anything. So I don't, totally the most terrifying. I've jumped out of planes and flown helicopters and stood on the edge of the Grand Canyon and like gone toe to toe with, big Samoan and Maori blokes on site. Nothing compared to standing on the stage going, oh my God, I've got to make these people laugh. Oh, and the longer I wait, the worse it's going to get. So just start. And I did. And I try not to look. I've got the recording and I try not to look back because I've judged myself harshly. But as everyone said to me afterwards, you know what? You got up there and you did it. There's no way I would have done it. Got up there for any of it. So that's where the bravery came in, I suppose, which was nice to have afterwards. But what it did was kind of give me another one of those, well, there's nothing else that I can do that's going to be as terrifying as what that was. So let's just go. Yeah. I get it. It is confronting. If you're not naturally funny and you're taking a step to try and make people laugh and that's the only outcome you need, that's your KPI, it's really confronting. And I've never been on stage anywhere else and I've had that level of terror. And fortunately, I didn't throw up with that one, but I did have some wobbly legs getting off the stage. I was like, getting through. It was crazy. Yeah, there was a few shots after that. I didn't do any beforehand because I kind of went, oh, no, that could be bad. One of the other team members did, and it was bad. I really felt for the poor guy.
Combination, like a schooner of beer and a shot of Fireball whiskey. And you're just riding the edge of the wave and you're just going, okay, I'm I'm loose enough that I'm not worrying about wetting myself, and I'm not drunk enough where I'm going to like show my tits to the audience.
Well, no, I don't know whether I got more laughs or not. Let's not go there. I had one to kind of do that loosen up, but I kind of went, if I have two, that's a very easy downhill slope to 3, 4, or 5. So no.
And then I love you so much.
Oh, all of the things, or the whole like, oh my God, I am hilarious. Let me tell you about this, and take 20 minutes, 5 minutes. And again, we had that person too on the stage. So, and it was her first one. So all of the things that I'm sure she's improved since then. It was exciting being that sort of first off and seeing what she was doing, because it was, it was something that no one else was doing. So it's great to meet people who've done the course since, and the fact that she's still doing it, because she's an awesome chick too, by the way.
She's amazing. Yeah. I'm talking to her next week. So we're going to have a chin about being obsessed with humour, because that's her jam, is teaching people to tap into their humour. Not about being funny, because there's a big difference between being funny and having a sense of humour. A lot of people don't think. Sometimes I don't say things because it's like, oh, okay, that might be a little people, okay, we'll just move right along. That's like not good. So you've got the recording now. I want to see it.
How much is it worth to you?
A bottle of Jim Beam.
Jack Daniels. I don't drink Jim Beam.
Jay.
Yeah, let's talk offline.
Okay, I want to see. I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Well, how can I resist that offer?
I know, it's the best offer you've had all day. So just before we wrap up, I really want to know, what is the future for Becky? Like, what have you got coming up? That's because you've done so much and you're so bold and vivacious and amazing. What else are you going to do to make the world a better place?
Well, the short answer is whatever I want. Which is my favorite answer to that question. Yeah. So, but like today's a really good example of what my future kind of looks like. I started the day with a book coach conversation about a kid's book I'm helping produce. I then moved on to a business conversation with my business partner. I've got a shared ownership in a company that's Indigenous, and we're looking at starting that up, and a great time for that, in the Northern Territory, working with a lot of Indigenous communities and defence and some of that sort of stuff, which is really exciting, and that's in the construction world. You mentioned the witch, so this kind of ties in. I'm doing an auric cleansing, I suppose. I don't know what I'd call it, but it's just a thing I do with a friend. He's opening up his fruit store soon, and we're just going to cleanse the space and make it really positive, and hopefully get some really good vibes for him to make a lot of money and be really successful. And then I'm going to talk to a couple of businesses about getting involved in a big project. And in between all of that, I've still got my beautiful Rhodesian Ridgebacks to train, because they're only 1.5 years old, and I'm trying to write some fiction. So I've got a couple of non-fictions I'm in process, and I'm trying to write this fiction series about this female protagonist set in the construction world. It's kind of a mystery and murder, mayhem, steampunk sort of mashup, but based on a lot of what I've been through, obviously, and trying to fictionalize it and make it something that's interesting and intriguing for women, and particularly young girls, to kind of find the industry more interesting than the normal stuff we kind of try and do. Because STEM, if you're not into it, you can't be made to be into it. But a fiction story about a character kicking ass and having a great time and solving the world's problems and giving it to the men and all that sort of stuff, I would think would be more attractive to get younger women going, oh, might go and look at that. Plus, it's really fun to write, because I can kill off all the people who've really annoyed me over 30 years and, do lots of that. That's right. It's fantastic therapy. So that's one of my bigger plans at the moment, and I'm sure I've left out a few things, but that gives you an idea of the future. Some more public speaking when we're allowed to go back and touch each other again, appropriately, of course, and with consent. And yeah, just keep getting the word out there. I'd love to have some more coaching clients and kind of work one-on-one. But at the moment, everyone's being a bit conservative, and I get that too. So I just kind of fill my time with whatever interesting thing I can become obsessed about next.
Well, look, I'm so glad that I'm sitting down, because that's a lot of stuff. You're an incredible human being, and I'm so glad that you chose to spend half an hour or so with me this afternoon. Becky, stay obsessed. Keep making the world a better place. And we'll have to catch up with you in 6 months to see how you've changed the world.
Absolutely. See you on the other side.